Hello, you beautiful souls. Welcome to another week of Awaken and Align. Thank you so much for being here. I'm recording this on May 11th, which happens to be the new moon in Taurus. Such a beautiful moon and energetic portal of manifestation, bringing all of your dreams and what you value into this material realm. If you're listening to this after the new moon in Taurus, it's still a beautiful portal. We are officially into eclipse season. And I always like eclipse seasons. I mean, they can be super intense, but they're always meant for us to align to our highest timeline, our highest path. And if you ever want to learn more about these moon cycles and these energetic portals, you can always join our weekly moon circles. More information is in the show notes. And what we do is we meet once a week as a community to talk about the cosmic energies. I've been bringing in some tarot, some magic, some rituals, and once a month I have a special guest on that circle members get to attend for free. Sorry, my mouth and my brain is going a mile a minute because Mercury's in Gemini, Venus is in Gemini, and so I'm like super excited. I have all this excited energy. But anyway, a lot of you have been reaching out to me, DMing me about the moon circles, and really what they are is a chance for us to get together as a community to learn more about these energies and how to use them in a practical way. Because I believe as above, so below, as within, so without. These energies are here to support us, and they're not really, meant to just pass us by. Really, it's for this embodied experience here on Earth, which is why I love this new moon in Taurus. It's all about the physical manifestations, our embodied experience. So anyway, you're going to hear me clicking around because I need to remember all of the things and announcements that I have to share. First of all, I'm showing up in a bigger way on some major platforms. Every Monday now, my guest, Erin Eber, and she has been a guest on this podcast. We are doing a pretend talk show every Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern time on my IGTV Live. And we talk about kind of like a fake pretend talk show about spirituality, what we've been noticing throughout, the pop culture zeitgeist, and really helping people move through, the craziness that is 2021 and beyond. And we really want to anchor in the energy of love and community and connection. And then every Wednesday, as you know, our podcast comes out with a new guest, an interview style guest. That's every Wednesday. Stay tuned for more programming on future podcasts, but I can't announce anything just yet, but just look out for it. Every Thursdays at 4 p.m. Eastern time on Clubhouse. I believe now it's available for Android users. My sister Sarah and I are doing something called Spiritual Tea, where we spill the tea and we talk about all things spirituality, but also our 3D experiences. And these conversations get pretty deep, so you don't want to miss that. Let's see what we have here. Our next Rooted Reiki is on Sunday, May 23rd at 10 a.m. Eastern time to accommodate our European friends. And in honor of Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month and the relief efforts we want to support our Indian friends, we are donating to United Sikhs. Their mission is to transform, alleviate, educate, and protect the lives of underprivileged individuals and minority communities impacted by disasters, natural or man-made, suffering from hunger, illiteracy, disease, or from violation of civil and human rights, into informed and vibrant members of society by fostering sustainable programs regardless of color, race, religion or creed. The Sikhs are a beautiful community. I learned about them in my time in India. I went to a lot of Sikh mosques, and they do beautiful, beautiful work. This is a United Nations affiliated international nonprofit organization. 100% of your proceeds go to United Sikhs, and we've even lowered the minimum for our sliding scale to $5. So if you are curious about Reiki and healing and being a part of healing circles, this is your chance. We do it once a month with the Reiki practitioners that I personally taught. Again, it's Sunday, May 23rd at 10 a.m. Eastern time. I know it's a little early, but we're trying to accommodate our European friends. And then on May 26th, we have our full moon total lunar eclipse event with, again, my astrology teacher, Nick Lasky. He was on once before, but he's coming back for a powerful lunar eclipse. We're going to do a talk about the astrology. We're going to do a fire ceremony because it's in the energy of Sagittarius and it's a South Node eclipse. It's a huge deal. And circle members join for free. So if you want to do more of this kind of stuff, the circle membership is $33 a month. And there's 4 circles per month, which ends up being around, I believe, like around $7 and some change per circle. If you want to attend the Eclipse circle, it's $20 USD. So I think it's, you know, if you're craving community and astrology and divination and magical witchy stuff, this is your chance. You can cancel at any time if this circle is not aligned for you. There's no pressure, don't worry. So those are the happenings of Awaken and Align for the month of May. And make sure to subscribe to the newsletter, follow on Instagram. You can follow my personal account, I am Laura Chung, for any updated information. But there's a lot going on again during Gemini season and during this eclipse season because I just want to communicate the wisdom and I want to support you in this journey. And I'm so excited for my next guest. His name is Remington Donovan. He's a numerologist and so much more. But I don't want to spoil the way that we met and all the wisdom that he has to hold. But this is such an amazing episode if you're interested in numerology and the numerology of 2021. We're at the midway point, and it's never too late to start activating what you want to create in this year, next year, in your lifetime. So again, my purpose here is to share this wisdom with you, to empower you to make informed decisions for your life. And it's always to inspire you from a place of love, connection, and community. Have a beautiful week, you beautiful souls, and see you soon. Bye. Hello, Remington. Welcome to Awaken and Align.
Laura, thanks so much. I actually love the name. It'll tie into some of the things we were pre-discussing to talk about. So, thanks very much for having me and reaching out. And it's always an honor to be able to share and be a part of this. And thanks for holding the space and hosting the space to, be able to do this and participate and all of the other guests I know that you have on. So I always admire anyone like in that arena, whether it's a podcast, YouTube videos, or something, just to help sort of get wisdom and teachings and different ideas and modalities out there. So I guess let's jump in.
Yeah, so I think I'm a little tongue-tied because I have so many things I want to ask you. But before I get into it, I believe in divine timing. And I think that you were working on a book and we couldn't have you on right away. But I think it's actually the perfect timing because what I was sharing with you was that I had a reading from you February of 2020. So last year, before the panorama happened, the global panorama.
Totally. It's a positive spin.
And well, I don't like to speak things that I don't want to experience. So because it's a spell. So this was before we knew what was going on in the world, and I was just reaching out to you because I wanted some career and life advice. And so many of the things that you told me were so out of my perception, my reality, because I was at a time when I was confused about what I wanted to do and where to take my business. And I was in no way, shape, or form ready to accept any of the things that you were telling me, but I wrote all of it down in my notebook. So that's why I know what you said. And every time I go into this state of what is my highest timeline, your voice is like in the background of my subconscious, like, stop being so afraid, stop being so afraid. So I really, really wanted to thank you publicly for doing what you're doing and sharing your wisdom, because I finally feel like I can come into what you shared with me last year. And I really feel that I am in the highest timeline of my being. So thank you so much.
That, that's Laura, that's a really great perspective. Also, I really appreciate hearing that. And I have to be honest, even though I'm crazy booked, I don't even I've never marketed my readings. Like, it's all been word of mouth growth to the point of waiting lists, and I'm booked solid. But and it's funny because every reading I go into it, and in my own thinking, sometimes I'm literally like, okay, I want every single one to be perfect. And being a reader, if you're really going to take it to a certain level, which is I'm very professional about it, is there's no room for error, and there's no room to be vague or confused. You can't, it's just you can't, I have to be perfect every time, and that's what I feel is my obligation. I put that energy towards that. But it's interesting that it took you a while to open up, and what I find is, what I'm generally looking at in my readings is sort of what's the highest potential direction. And a lot of energy frequencies can manifest into different things, however it manifests into a career or whatever it is, a relationship to create more prosperity in somebody's life. Career tends to be one of the bigger things, because that's just, for some reason, that's just what a lot of people are trying to navigate, or having a life that's really fulfilling, that combines all of those things. I like the concept that prosperity is time, love, and money. But when I look at a chart, and I'm looking at astrology, I'm looking at numerology, I have visions, I'll do meditation, I'm looking at tarot, what's really coming up is like, okay, what's the most optimal soul reality for this person? And I do get a lot of messages where it unravels for several years. And sometimes it is, like you said, I think sometimes hearing like, oh, I'm capable of another level of greatness that I wasn't allowing myself. And I feel like, even though I address some of the, maybe where there's some blocks and things like that, I'm trying to really inspire, hey, here's the most sort of awesome you at this phase in your life. 5-10 years from now, maybe there's another level you want to take it to. But it's a great roadmap. And I actually started doing a lot of readings for more kids. Like, parents have been coming to me because the parents kind of want to know, what is the potential of this child. I've literally done a reading for a 6-month-old. Wow. And I went through all this stuff on their chart. But I've also did a reading for a she was, at the time, she was 10. 1 hour she sat there taking notes, knowing all her numerology. She wanted to know her moon sign. I'm like, who are these kids? But I was like, that's like a great blessing to kind of get some perspective on like the energy frequencies of charts and things like that. But I just really love to help people sort of lean into, or bust out into, like a higher capability. Right. And even for myself, the more that I even started to go deeper into my own chart, my own numbers, and I realized, oh, like shit, in a good way, like I can step up and I'm not like delusional, right? I think a lot of people are afraid to just step into the greatness of who they are because for a lot of different narratives, right? Like, oh, I'm being like an arrogant jerk about it. It's very rare that I come across someone that they should tone it down a little bit because they're so delusionally confident. But I do, it unravels. And my joke now, and we were joking about it, I'm like, oh, I just gave you so much information. I get messages from like, oh, that reading from 5 years ago, all of this is now lining up. Totally makes sense. I'm like, wait a minute, I gotta cut back. I gotta give less information or charge more so I can like keep the clients going. But I mean, that's a joke. I don't do that. Like I'm doing my full on, like I'm gonna pour out everything that comes through. So it's just what I love. But I think it really, any reading, the technique doesn't even matter. It just comes down to, hey, let's help open up the most optimal you and what's your highest potential. We're not, I think we have to give each other like as some credit, but also, we're sort of perfect where we're at. But I just think being ambitious for the evolution of your soul is a noble pursuit.
Yeah, and what I loved about your reading was, in psychology, we call it self-fulfilling prophecy. When you can believe that this is possible, it's almost like a roadmap to where you could go. And if you're completely happy with where you are, okay, fine. Like, I feel like that's fate. But if you are committed to your destiny's path, then this is what's available. And that's kind of how I saw your reading. It was more like, if you are willing to do what it takes, like this is the highest timeline that you can achieve. And the only thing holding you back is your fears and your perceptions, but it's your choice. And that's what I loved about it.
Oh yeah, Laura, that's like, I mean, really wise insight too. And I love that you brought up the word fate because, one thing I'll experience is people maybe have never done something like get a reading or people attribute maybe what I do to seeing like a psychic or something. And although I sort of use those techniques, a lot of people are afraid, and it's all fate consciousness, right? And so what I was taught was destiny consciousness.
Mhm.
That's not what's going to happen to me. The reading is, what can I do? What should I do? And what should I do to open up? And fate is just victim consciousness. Like it is what it is. It could be a good thing. But I don't actually, I should rephrase that. I don't think really any fate per se is a good thing. It may not appear like that, maybe nothing horrible is happening, like impending doom with your life. But a lot of people, even people that are, successful on some level, they're not really going anywhere.
Mhm.
And what is your incarnation about? Ultimately, at some level, there's lessons to be worked on, but what are you really, in my sort of the way I was taught, is like, what are you doing with your life? What are you contributing? Where are you growing in relation to your soul? And how are you just not only just discovering purpose, but then how are you fulfilling and putting that into action? And it's not always like, oh, this is my job. A lot of people too, sometimes you just have your job because, hey, this earns money and that now it affords me a lifestyle. That my true profession in my psychology and my own thinking is my spiritual evolution. That's what that's what all of this like mystical, magical, hermetic, mumbo jumbo, Merlin we were talking about ultimately is a dedication to say my life's pursuit and my real professional calling is the evolution of my soul and connection to my soul and my purpose.
Mhm.
Right? Everything else is a side thing, whether it's money, things like that. I've done tons of jobs that were just fulfilled that purpose. But I do feel really blessed that all of this is also, for me, has turned into like a career that I'm somewhat known for, and it just keeps growing. So that's another level of prosperity I'm grateful for. But honestly, that was me finally getting my shit together to like be honest with my own chart, my own numerology, and to have my own confidence. So it's still I think we're always growing and stepping in.
Totally. Well, with that, I want to read the bio that you sent over.
Okay.
Remington Donovan is a numerologist, Qabalistic tarot reader, seer, and teacher of Kundalini yoga living in Los Angeles. You were born into the tradition of Swami Satchidananda.
Yeah, very good. Your pronunciations are awesome.
Learning meditation and yoga, and you began formal training in the Western mystery tradition as a teenager, studying under an Adept Master for 22 years, practicing the Hermetic, Qabalistic wisdom of the ancients. Okay, for the person that is not familiar with, mystery schools and, all the old ancient technologies that you've studied, what does all this mean?
Great question. I know it could all seem like a bunch of like gibberish. Also, I do see these terms just like thrown around.
Yes.
So okay, well, so Swami Satchidananda was. I'll just start real quickly from the beginning. He was he's a yoga teacher, and he was part of the breed that came over from India. And his teacher was Swami Shivananda. You could Google these guys. You could Shivananda. There's pictures. I think he died, I want to say in the 60s. And his teacher Shivananda instructed him that it was time for him to go to the West and teach these teachings to Westerners. And he literally was sent to America, which is something I don't think a lot of people today that even practice yoga understand, or the people that want to criticize or turn yoga into something about culture and race. Like these very high masters and high teachers were obeying their teachers and their instructions to come here. And Satchidananda did that. And he created and started a center in New York City originally. He was sort of, I don't know, for whatever reason, he was guided to go to New York. This was in the late 60s, hippie everything. And he started teaching yoga. Like you just go to a yoga class, he would teach it. But it's not just like the postures of, say, hatha yoga, it's the whole lifestyle, right? And then it's all the philosophy, it's the spiritual teachings, it's the meditations, it's the mantras. And he started a thing. And so I was born into that in New York City. And so, I mean, I literally was able to learn from him because this was all closer to the beginning. I mean, it had been a little established by the time I was born, but, and we had our own school. And I mean, I literally learned meditation from someone at that caliber. And I think as a kid, it becomes more of an energetic exchange.
Mm-hmm.
I thought a lot of it was really cool. And I was aware that I was a part of something out of the norm, especially in America. And I was aware there's these other, like, to me, normie kids are like the Harry Potter, like these muggles out there. In my mind, they're like, oh, they're allowed to eat all the sugar they want and like meat and things like that. And like, so I wasn't clueless to the fact of how I was growing up and that I was learning yoga and meditation, right? I was very, very aware of that. But I think as a kid too, it's all these stories and just hearing a guy from India talk. And Saturday is the day of satsang, which is like the service, sort of almost like a church service on a Sunday or a temple or something, just depending on your tradition. But as a kid, it was fun. But hearing these like gibberish stories of wisdom, they all seem very dumb to me. And I think just as a child, you get a different connection. You're taught in a different way, and you're in that energy, and you kind of I got the blessing of a very high teacher. But as a teenager, I really started to come into my own, and what what really interests me, and I'm grateful for my upbringing, but it was like, it kind of started with tarot and witchcraft, and that sort of opened up doors to find a teacher. So this is the long form answer. What the hell is a hermetic, magical, mystery school, et cetera, et cetera? Those are just sort of terms that I put up there because officially, in some level, there's not really a name. What a lot of people don't realize is within Western culture, and I don't really like to divide East and West because but just, and I'll separate that just for a minute, but there is a long-standing spiritual tradition, and within the sort of European Western culture, even though a lot of it's really rooted in ancient Egypt, and we still study and practice yoga, and at some level, all of these high teachers, they all intermingle, all these cultures, all these mystery schools connect. So it's really a world thing, but it's ceremonial magic, and the loose terminology is Hermetic magic, mystical Kabbalah, which is spelled with a Q Kabbalah, as opposed to like K Kabbalah, which is the common spelling, probably if you look up Kabbalah. And there's other lineages. It's not associated with Judaism as a religion. It's not associated with Christianity or any per se religion, but magic is considered it sees the truth of every spiritual practice, and it really is just the spiritual practice. So it just hones in what's like the juice, what's the magic, and what is the force that we have access to, and what is the energy that we have access to that causes change. And so it's really about our own spiritual progress, but it's sort of labeled as ceremonial magic, and magic with a K was a modern interpretation just to delineate it from stage magic. You know, like David Copperfield, which, by the way, I used to be a professional stage magician. But so the mystery school is just sort of what the name is and how it was set up. Like in Indian cultures that I know, they're called ashrams, right? The teachers there. This would be similar if your listeners are familiar with an ashram. But even like Pythagoras would have his students, and that was it. He would teach a little group of people, and so it's sort of that setting. And even when you say school, all these people think I'm like well versed, book read on everything. I can tell you this: none of it. All of those years in that, I was sort of assigned maybe 3 books to say, okay, well, read these. I own a lot of books and I reference them and I've read a lot of them, but none of this is book study. So I feel like school, and even the word study, it really doesn't do it justice. It's just an immersion of experiential living through the teachings that you could say Rosicrucian. It all sort of ties in. So Rosicrucian, Western mystery tradition, Kabbalah, mystic Christianity, which is Rosicrucian, but it really is none of those. There really technically really isn't a phrase or a word for it. But magic is the closest thing, ceremonial magic. And again, we learn many techniques, they're handed down, and again, many of teachers traveled throughout many different cultures and learned from many different adepts. And mystery school is because these were taught, it's the mysteries of the universe and the mysteries of yourself, right? There's a musician I love named Sun Ra, and he always said, the mystery is my story, the history is his story, right? So you're unraveling your own self, right? What are the layers? What are your blocks? What are the things? What are the illusions? What's the confusion about you? And so that's just it's a certain legacy. It's a certain spiritual lineage that's not based on any type. It's not cultural. Everybody is welcome, and it just happened to progress and evolve somewhat in Europe, but it's not a European. It's not like the European pagan roots. It's just that happened to be where it thrived. I studied magic all different types of people from all cultures. And I actually remember temporarily this guy was studying, he was from Taiwan, and he spoke hardly any English, and he was like so good at tarot because the English, the explanations, the interpretations, all of that got bypassed, and he just was immediately in the moment with it. And so like it does transcend language and things like that, but loosely Hermetic, that's sort of the cultural context history of it. And again, that seems a little babbling just because my teacher is always like, you can kind of call it this, but there isn't per se a name. We utilize these techniques. That's why, like, I don't even like to say Kabbalah a lot of times, because then things, people think I'm associated, like in LA, there's a Kabbalah center and they're doing their thing. It's totally different, you know, and good for them and people love it. It's their thing. I don't have anything to do with that. But just think it's spirituality. Spirituality is having your own spiritual experience. Religion is celebrating someone else's spiritual experience. And it doesn't provide that juice. So there's every spiritual tradition somewhere along the line has truth in it and has some juice that we can access. I mean, I studied I Ching, for example, and there's tons of magical writings in I Ching. I was taught to learn so many different disciplines and practices, anything from fencing to chess to tai chi to marksmanship to sewing to fashion to cooking, like you name it. It's really about a certain caliber of mastery of life. I guess that's a Western mystery tradition.
Thank you for answering that. I think that what you're talking about is an ancient spiritual wisdom that was present at the beginning of time before it was distorted by people's own spiritual ideas and practices. And I think with our astrological transits in the last 2 years, maybe even longer than that, I think that's why so many people are interested in tarot and witchcraft and astrology, because these were the essence of what we knew back then, our ancient wisdom within us that we're bringing back and that we're remembering beyond religion and beyond, like Christianity, Judaism, and all of that. Like when you strip all of that down, the root of it all is this wisdom that you're talking about.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. And, the teaching is that at some point, like the timeline is wherever. I mean, a lot of these teachings just come from divinity, and magic will, the West thought idea, these systems, these spiritual systems come from the God Thoth. And I know other cultures have probably similar ideas, and that wisdom comes through, but whether it was like ancient Atlantis and then up through Egypt, and then these teachings split off into so many different parts of the planet. And then a lot of it had to go sort of underground. India has been sort of fortunate where they have been able to maintain and keep it above ground. It was heavily persecuted. People were murdered all the time for practicing practicing your spiritual evolution, and people are afraid of it. But yeah, whether it went through parts of Asia, but have always been adept masters that hold on to this, and it is all connected, but it's all one source. Even the ashram I grew up on, fundamental teaching was truth is one, paths are many, right? We're all here, everybody's arguing and killing each other literally over something that is just like, oh, how do we become closer to source? Well, my way to source is better, so fuck off, I'm gonna kill you. Right? Like, you offended my source. Like, I see it now. I see the separation is crazy on one level, but there's resurgence of tarot and astrology is very inspiring, and it's exactly what you say. Like, people are just awakening. The mythology in magic is that we are in the Eon of Horus, which is a new consciousness. The consciousness of the planet is shifting, and we're coming out of a time where we had to have big teachers that people worshipped, right?
Mhm.
The idea of a Buddha, the idea of Jesus Christ, Krishna, whatever it is, these sort of human teachers are slowly coming to an end. Their teachings are
Mhm.
still very valid, but the new prophecy in the magical tradition is called the crowned and conquering child. And so the new kind of quote Messiah, the new sort of paradigm of the spiritual teacher, is each individual's connection to divinity, their own source and their own soul. The only glitch that happens there is now everyone's super entitled and thinks that they're just their own teacher. And teachers, I think, are more valuable than ever now.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to say I thoroughly enjoy your newsletters. Every month I look forward to them, and also your IGTVs about the energy of the month. So if any of you want to understand numerology and everything that Remington is saying, you can subscribe to his newsletters and his IGTV, his Instagram. But I guess this is a great time to move into, the 5-year. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with numerology, Remington has so much information on his personal Instagram. But can we get into like what that means, number 5?
Yeah, totally. I always like to do kind of we're not quite at the half year, but it's coming up, and it's always a good refresher. Because you know how it is. Beginning of the year, everyone's like, hell yeah, I'm like, I got my whatever, my diet, I'm going to the gym, I'm getting my life. Tomorrow, January 1st, is the day I get my life together. And it's good. I mean, I feel like that's an encouraging, zealous energy that we have as a collective. So every single year is a different numerology, and when we just come up with the numerology on the date, so it's just in case people are like, what the heck is numerology? 2021, just add 2 plus 2 plus 1, or technically 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 1, but it equals 5. So we've been in a 5-year. Now, what are the spiritual teachings? So each number, they do hold a vibration and a frequency, but you can go a little deeper, and there's sort of, think that there's spiritual teachings and energetic descriptions encoded with each number. So each number kind of has a quality and a teaching. And 5 is very much, well, really 5 is a destroyer. 5 is vigor, action, energy. Now, destruction, of course, can be very negative, but in this case, 5 is like a disruptor, right? Like even in my book that's coming out this fall in November, I have examples of like celebrities that have prominent, say, like whatever the number is, and the prominent 5 energies are like Albert Einstein, who completely changed and disrupt the sort of paradigm of physics and science that we do at that time, right? That's huge. We're still utilizing that. 5 is also a teacher. Is Einstein. Booker T. Washington, for example, he's someone like, these are disruptive kind of warrior energies, and 5 is a warrior, 5 is a disruptor, 5 is a teacher. And 5 is the energy. When I say destruction, of course, the low energy of that is being drawn to frustration, anger, and just destruction for its warmongering insanity. I was a little concerned for the planet, just because 5 is so powerful. It's Mars in astrology, and if you know Mars is warfare, but for our spiritual evolution, it's the sword. It's our own spiritual battle, and it gives us the vigor to cut out and to destroy that which doesn't serve a purpose for us anymore. So it's also called the editor, right? What is an editor do? An editor is just like, okay, we have a lot of superfluous, sort of useless, dead matter. Let's clear it away. What is alchemy? Alchemy is separating the dross material. If you're turning lead into gold, the elements and the things that don't serve a purpose, they're just dead weight. So this is a great year to examine, well, what's my dead weight, right? What's just sort of sitting around holding me back.
Mm.
And so 5 is really just, it's very active,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's very charged. And what I always say is a little bit of 5 goes a long way,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, so it's the spark, right? All you really need is one match and you can set off a whole fire. Like literally cities burn down from that. But so what are you igniting? Where are you inspired? It's a very inspired, highly charged, like vigorous, go-getter energy. So there's a lot of momentum, especially coming out of the 4-year 2020, which I had described in the beginning of 2020 as a wonderful time, and it's a little more restful and it's a peaceful energy. And then all of a sudden, like everyone was forced for the most part to be at home.
Mm-hmm.
And regardless of the narrative or where that's coming from, but that was the reality, which is very much the 4 number. I told people 4 is sort of like a respite. This is the first time in history the whole planet kind of got a little bit of a rest. I know there's individual stories that are totally different or whatever, but for the most part, and I knew so many people that created financial opportunities from home, took some time off. When's the last time anyone was able to probably take a month off? And in America, people, I think, it's some of the unemployment, a lot of people did okay, but it's interesting to see the shift. So wherever you feel like you've been behind or slacking or just kind of being a putz, whether it's the whole of your life or from just like the malaise of being quarantined for a long time, especially if you live in certain states, like I live in LA or in New York, like we've had it the hardest and longest, but it's a great time to break that rut. So if you feel like, oh shoot, the year's almost over, like it's not too late. Just grab onto that 5 inspiration. And it's sort of like that alarm clock that just goes off and it's like, all right, I'm like up and at 'em. I'm ready to go. 5 is great for physical energy, physical vigor, working out. So if your New Year's resolution was to work out and now you're like, it's quarantine, I don't want to go jogging in LA because I got to wear a mask outside.
Mm-hmm.
That's my excuse. But like like feel inspired. If you really tap in, look at the number 5. The color red is attributed to 5. Look at the teachings of Mars. Mars is right action. Mars is change, and it's change through disruption. But I think we all need a little disruptive sort of fire under our butt. It can feel like a thorn in your side, but really when it's done right, it's just like it's rocket fuel and it's time for liftoff. And it's time. I think the leaps that are being made this year are tremendous.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel it for myself, but I see it with so many people I interact with, like that are really coming into a new level of prosperity.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's very encouraging. Have you, like, what have you felt for this 5-year? Like, what have you disrupted or changed or felt invigorated about?
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that because I'm sure you know astrology, but a lot of the listeners might not be aware of the Saturn Uranus square that we are going through this year, and we're going into eclipse season. And I really feel like with the Saturn and Uranus square, the second one's in June, it's like asking us to disrupt something that's been fixed, something that's been stagnant, Uranus and Taurus and Saturn in Aquarius. It's like very much what parts of your life are like stuck and what do you need to like shake up a little bit. And for me, I think mine's all mental. Mine is all my perceived notions of what I can and cannot do. And something that I shared at the end of the IG Live was that I'm actually quite a radical revolutionary person, but I don't necessarily share all of my ideas because I'm a people pleaser and I want people to feel comfortable. But once I start being more comfortable with my role here on Earth, I feel that, you know, the more I can shake up my beliefs, the more I can help others see past their own limitations. Because something that you said to me last year was that I'm meant to be a disruptor, an awakener.
Do you have a 5 in your numerology? What's your birthday again?
I'm a 7 life path.
Oh, okay. But what month are you born?
March.
Okay, so 3, and then March what?
20th.
Oh, 2. 2 is so sweet. Yeah, well, I mean that totally. I'll have to look at the other numbers and stuff. That's a very kind disruptor though. Well, seven's sort of downfall per se. That's a little dramatic. Is a little bit of people pleasing. It's a very sweet, loving energy. You 2 and 7, like I don't tell you this, and I want to give you the confidence. You can really disrupt in a very harmonious and kind and elevating way, and so it's very magical. 7 makes the world a better place, and that's what you're here to do. And if you're here to do it to disrupt, because there's got to be other things in there. Because you're a 5 challenge. The way that you grow is through helping cause change and disrupt the paradigm. You're here to create, ultimately, too, another level of that is, Laura, you're here to create prosperity and to share that with others, and you make others feel safe. So I definitely wouldn't worry about like, oh my God, I'm gonna blow shit up so bad that like I've hurt people. And 2 is such a lovey, 7 and 2, like it's so sweet and nice. Like, so you are a kind disruptor, but you know, the astrology that you're bringing up in combination of this 5 years. So think explosive energy of Mars, but Mars is bigger gut instinct, which is ties into 5. That's just like, heck yeah, I'm doing it. Finally, I'm gonna, like, it's strength, and it's just the courage really comes to fruition in that energy. I'm glad you brought up those astrological squares, because I actually don't track astrology probably as much as I should. I have a really good friend who's just like a straight astrologer, so I just hit her up. She's also my neighbor. It just works out really well.
Oh my God, the two of you, your conversations.
My friend Tashi, and she's just skilled. I mean, she's been doing charts since I was a little kid. And she just really is paying attention to those angles. But yeah, you have Saturn, which is like, it's restrictive, but it's like restrictive in a discipline, and that really can be how you harness the power, right? Like a rocket explosion sends the rocket, but you need to contain that energy and direct it, and that's what Saturn does. Now it's hitting up against Uranus, which is liberation, revolution, change. Uranus is also change. And it's just like an upgraded paradigm. Like, hey guys, you were doing this in a challenging way. I got an easy way to it. But those two, which sort of feel like they butt heads, I think it's huge catalyst. I mean, I'm not gonna, to be honest, this is the time of waiting around to try to get your shit together is over. And I don't want to instill like fear in people, but that's the spiritual reality. All the teachers that I know, what I was taught too, is this is not the time to fence sit anymore. So just decide with this disruptive energy and getting disruptive help. Laura will help in the most lovingly kind way disrupt your life, right? So it's it's like an alarm clock of like beautiful, sweet music. I'm an alarm clock that's like, get the fuck up. But you're like, you can just saunter in and be empowered. Yeah. And I just really like your numerology formula, but that tension, it's Uranus is like, I got a better way, a better technology. And so the old restrictive quality is Saturn. Do you know what a sin is in the magical tradition? A sin is really just meant to mean your own self-imposed restrictions. And this is the time So Saturn is where we trap ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
right? Saturn relates to Capricorn. That's the devil card. We get confined, right? Usually our limited beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
And also Uranus and Taurus, like you mentioned. Taurus is limited beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
Taurus is great. I'm actually about to record a video on it right after this, but Taurus is completely limited beliefs. It's called the frog in the well syndrome, where you're like a little frog and you got your little well, you got your little house in your well, and like you got a little water supply, you got a little rock you live on. You're like, this is great. And then you look out the top of the well and it's just this little opening and you see some stars go by, you see daylight, and you think that's it. And that's the downside of Taurus energy, which is now in Uranus, which is another disruptor. Uranus is revolutionary into evolutionary. It's not violently revolutionary. There's a lot of fake revolutions happening on the planet. And there's a lot of dark forces that are aware that there's this energy, but they've like co-opted people's psyche to go in a weird direction that isn't serving the collective. And I'm not even going to get into specifics there. I posted a lot of videos on that in the past, but you are so right. And then eclipses are just door openings and door closings. And how are you going to use it? We need to close the door on a bunch of crap, and we need to open doors. But I really can't urge you enough. This is an awakening time.
Mm-hmm.
And the energy is faster right now, and it's more fierce. So don't get caught behind. There's a lot of magical prophecies that really talk about this shift now in this consciousness. If you got to step up, otherwise you're literally just going to be left in the dust.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this isn't like paranoid. This, I'm sharing this in a little heavier way because I really want people to know. But the reality is, this is your time.
Mm-hmm.
So many people are aware, they're waking up, and it's like, yeah, this is my time.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it's literally is time. And the astrology is pointing to it, the numerology is pointing to it, many ancient prophecies are pointing to it. Even if you're just the most sort of out there, like high vibe new ager, like that there's a different consciousness happening on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And it's for real. So that's why I really encourage you with the work you're doing. You're still carrying that out to people.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're a sweet, loving disruptor.
Well, thank you so much. I think what you're sharing is so exciting. And I know that a lot of crazy shit is going to go down before things get better. But I think that what you're saying is the prophecies and the energies are supporting you if you choose to take that opportunity to change your life and in turn change the collective consciousness.
1,000,000% brilliant. Exactly. And don't get so ripped apart into following someone else's like narrative and agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like nothing's going to change if you're not changing. That's a fundamental magical teaching. Mm-hmm. Is like, don't get so caught up on what the outside world is doing that you absolutely lose sight on your own personal development. Right? Working on yourself also affects the outside. You will naturally be drawn to make those changes on the outside as well. Because there's a whole narrative too. Everyone, all these like woke morons that I see on Instagram, and they're, you're spiritually bypassing, blah, blah, blah. You got to dedicate. Like, no, you're actually bypassing by being so 3D that you have no bigger picture awareness. And 2024 is big picture awareness. 5 is then I get the big picture. I'm going to move forward. So we're always causing change, as above, so below is fundamental. Google Hermetic teaching. What the hell is Hermeticism? And you'll see a bunch of things about Hermes and the god Thoth or Mercury, and all you'll see is as above, so below. There's a million Instagram accounts that claim they're teaching that, but they just quote that like 100 different ways. And that really is saying the work we do within affects the world without. And also the work we do without does affect within. You clean up your house, it's spotless, it feels good, you feel good, you create more prosperity in the world. I'm not saying cloister yourself and only worry about you, but like you're causing change in the world by getting just this podcast alone. You're getting consciousness, ideas, and teachings. You're a teacher. And that's one of the things you're meant to do to really upgrade so much in the world and yourself. You're kind of just doing your thing, and it makes a difference. But yeah, it's real. And I do want to touch on the astrology of Uranus and Taurus. Taurus is our resources, it's our money, it's how we earn money through our talents. Uranus is a new way. These usually, and a lot of people were so afraid because the last time Uranus happened was like right at the big stock market crash in the 30s, which led to the Great Depression. And then we had good times with World War II. I say that very facetiously if that's not obvious, but and that's a change in but think about what's the upgraded change in your own personal resources now, right? Like so many astrologers from a couple years ago, and this shifted, people that were more intense, they were like, oh, this is literally the paradigm of like cryptocurrency, for example. Today that we're recording this, certain cryptocurrencies are having their record highs, but as a whole, this, since we've had Uranus go into Taurus, this disruptive change of prosperity, how do you create prosperity for yourself? And financial prosperity is going to be very important because it's new. So the financial opportunities, if you apply a little intelligence, are huge right now. And I'm not saying just like throw everything in cryptocurrency, because still that's like whoever has more fiat money can buy more cryptocurrency. Like we're still in that paradigm, but it's interesting to see these alternative systems of money still tremendously go up in value. And it's because the concept of everything being decentralized, that's Aquarian, right? Aquarian is and then Saturn is trying to hold on to this old structure, old religious institution, government, right? It's what, in feminist terms, it's the downfall of the patriarchy. In magical terms, we don't really get tied into gender like that, but it's the downfall of what was once a certain style of rulership. We all know it's over. They know it's over, but they're just holding on for dear life, and they're trying to separate so many different thought forms, especially in America. It's crazy to me. So it's like you'd have to be a total, like even the most sort of mogul, unconscious, unaware person is got to be noticing. I noticed this even in the early 2000s when huge companies started falling and crumbling, right? Enron, what was the other, IG something, there was a lot, and I just was like, here it is. Here's what I was taught when I was a teenager about the Eon of Horus, is that these large institutions are falling apart. They're going by the wayside. They don't serve a purpose. Even like entertainers I know, nobody's like, oh, I gotta there's still TV and shows being made, but everyone has a media outlet. If you put in some energy and have something good, you have more opportunities than you've ever had. So the control structure is imploding. There are some repercussions that feel a little rough right now, but it freaking needs to happen. And it needs to happen in a very evolved way. But that's where I think the cryptocurrency is interesting, to see how cryptocurrencies have gone up in value since Taurus resources, or since Uranus went into Taurus. Disruptive change for the better. Uranus is decentralized. The Aquarian age is decentralized. No one gets to be the curator of information. Information is what used to be valuable. Now we all have the information. What's truly valuable now is authentic experience and spiritual experience, right? So the other sort of negative side that I've been seeing is like everyone can just Google anything up, and they think, oh, the information's free, but they're not paying any dues to have that experience. And we're going to see people absolutely losing their minds because they're not getting in touch with an authentic experience of their own infinity.
Mm-hmm.
They're just social media to, and I'm a big proponent. I love social media. It's a great way to get your work out there, but like, there's an arrogant side to this Aquarian consciousness of entitlement.
Mm-hmm.
Opposite of Aquarian is Leo. Leo is totally self-absorbed entitlement on its sort of shadow side, per se. Really, it's about confidence, and you're so confident and bold and courageous that you'll take a risk on yourself, that you also encourage other people to do that. And then we create a paradigm of the opposite shift of Aquarian energy, which is opposite Leo, and that's like a collective of empowered individuals.
Exactly.
And the other negative side is where we're trying to strip away all privacy, right? That's very Aquarian.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like a weird setup. That's why I always think that there's other sort of kind of darker forces that see the energies. I've gone into some deep numerology dives. And let me tell you, I'm like, something else. I call them diabolical miracles, because I'm like, they're like so aware how to use this in a horrible way,
Mm-hmm.
right? Everyone's just like, okay, fine. Like, yeah, here's my whole medical record to go shopping at freaking Whole Foods or whatever. And then it all is just a grooming. That's like, doesn't mean you don't have privacy in the Aquarian age, but these are all the things to look at. And but ultimately, to sum it up, the power structures are imploding, and the Piscean age, as it's called, they're just fighting their last sort of wars and the last throes of a dying monster.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, fuck them. And 5 is like, fuck them energy, you know. And I don't like the violent, these things that we've been seeing. That's not, I don't agree with any of that. That's not a magical teaching.
Mm-hmm. So 4-year was for us to, again, not saying anything about the external circumstances, but what it was calling us for us to do was to rest and for us to go inward. I mean, 4 is to me like Cancerian energy, like very home and nurturing. And then,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, and then 5.
Go on.
Well, like, and then 5 is like, okay, we've rusted up. Now it's time to fuck shit up. And then going into the 8-year, 6-year, which is 2022. 6 is the number of like harmony, right?
Well, yeah. Wow, you haven't even read my book yet.
Not yet.
Well, 6 is the number of prayer and meditation, but it's called beauty in Kabbalah. But what that beauty means isn't like like that guy is like totally hot or whatever, or she's like a babe, or this is a great design aesthetic. It is the beauty that is the authentic, harmonious flow of the cosmos.
Mm-hmm.
And so it really is like this elevated sense of order. And like you said, it is the number of harmony. It's orbital flow. How, like, you know, big picture out, you know, now they flow. And that's 6 too. The spiritual teaching in Kabbalah of 6 is called the union of the microcosm and the macrocosm. So it just means now we have access to something greater. And in sort of spiritual terms, we really have access to divinity and creator like we've never had. And so 6 is going to be a powerful time to manifest as well, in alignment of your true highest destiny. 6 is the number of destiny, or it's the number of fate. This is what I mean. Use this 5 vigor energy to just dust yourself off, fucking clean up the dirty dishes and get your shit together this year, because you have the energy, because next year you're going to be able to really go into a new destiny. We're also going to see people who didn't do shit, and they're going to go back into fate, and they're going to be stuck in the same orbit of the same fate, of the same old shit, and the same karma, and an absolute rut that's going to be a hard paradigm to break. And it's up to us. If we're making that change, we inspire others. And six is a very interesting number. It's kind of one of my favorites. I have deep relationship, but it's also the quote spiritual number. The union of macrocosm and microcosm. If you look at a six-sided star, that's what it is, right? The old definition in sort of biblical-ish Piscean age terms, it's like the union of man and God. And so six makes everything sacred, and you just start. It's like if you had a computer in the 80s, you weren't online. Then all of a sudden you have internet, and we started having all of this access. Six is like that, is like the cosmic internet, right? So when you just plug in, once you tap into six, the magical teachings about six, once you tap into six, you tap into everything else. But that is also where a lot of people stop progressing because they're like progressing. That's an interesting reflection. They stop making progress because, well, all right, they're tapped in. I have access to everything. It's easy to get lazy again. That's why six is another rut number. Four can be a rut. Six can be a rut. So 4 year, absolutely big picture awareness. Oh, I get it. This is a higher destiny for me. 5 year is like, I'm really going for it. 6 years, whoa, now that I sort of cleared those channels, I can bring in so much more destiny. And I'm going to catapult to a higher orbit of my soul. And I'm very curious how this 6 year is going to play out. You're getting the sneak peek right now.
Yeah. Well, so these years that we're talking about are collective, but we each have our own personal year. So that's also different depending on how your personal numerology interacts with the collective energies.
Exactly. And then you also have your own personal numerology chart. It's all based on birthday. I have stuff on my Patreon. I was going to probably make like a free video of at least what's your life path number, because that gives you direction. In a chart, there's all these other placements, your experience number. Maybe it's a little less impactful, but still important. But yeah, so you know, even if you know your astrology, or if you know your yearly numerology, a lot of people got my numerology reports that I do at the end of the year. For your personal numerology, is you just tie that in, like, okay, the collective energy is going through disruptive change. Let's dust ourselves off and let's feel empowered. And then how does that relate to you? Like, I'm having a 6 year this year, so 6 is also a network, right? So I feel like, okay, this is a great year for me to expand my network. Do you know what year you're having this year?
1.
Okay, so in the way I teach it, that would be a 10. But 1 is 10. Oh, this is your year to mega shine. So all of those insecurities and all of those blocks of which kept you from putting yourself out there, this is a great opportunity to just, Laura, be the rock star that you are. Like, it's that simple. It's the star power number.
Yeah.
And it means you're number 1, not a number 0. That's what 10 energy. 10 likes to be like, well, am I number 1, right? Do I have that confidence? Do I stand in that greatness? Or am I just a total 0 loser failure at life, right? Like, I'm not saying you take it that far, but I like to kind of joke about the extremes because I feel like it makes it a little easier.
Yeah.
And that's 10 energy. So you're everything that you can destroy that keeps you from being the rock star that you really are. I mean, you're doing it.
Yeah, and that's why I was saying it's all full circle for me talking to you, because I really needed to. I spoke to you during my 9 year. So it was a lot of me breaking down my, limiting beliefs and a full culmination of energy. And I feel like I'm finally coming into my highest potential. So I really do feel this 10 year, like, I feel like, the 10 of cups, I guess, or the 10 of pentacles in tarot.
Well, yeah, that's the wealth card. The discs and the cups are really good. But wealth too is like a real culmination, and it's like these shiny gold coins, putting yourself out there. And yeah, 10 of Cups is anything 10 in Kabbalah is really coming into a fulfillment of a potential. 10 is the last Sephiroth Malkuth on the Tree of Life, which means the kingdom. In yoga, 10 is the number of radiance. That's why I call it the sort of star power. And so you really are sort of a radiant, it's really spiritual nobility. And it's being empowered in this kingdom of earth. So it gives you a greater ability. And don't thwart it, don't truncate it by like neurotic insecurity, which we all go through.
Yeah.
That was one of my lessons. I have a lot of 10s in my numerology, and it all started to make sense, but I was like, I gotta just put myself out there within this work that I had kept very private and secret my whole life. And then it's like, I came out of the closet, like, I'm a mystic, everybody, like, here you go. And I just started sharing it.
Well, with that being said, please share about your book.
Yes, actually, so literally I was still deciding for sure on the title with my publisher, but I didn't, which right now my book is, I didn't even realize that they already put it up for pre-order on Amazon without the cover yet. We're the cover design, the book's written and everything. We're just the layout, right? There's a whole process of publishing a book, I'm learning, but it's coming out officially. Amazon, I think it'll be available on the 9th of November, but my publisher picked the official date as 11/11, which I think was just how it lined up. And I was like, you guys realize this is a numerology book. And so my editor was like, oh, like, they're just not, somebody tuned into that without, whether it was conscious or not. But so, first part in November there, it's already #1 bestseller on Amazon, and the cover isn't even up, and the title may change, but at this point it says Beginner's Guide to Numerology and the Mystical Significance of Numbers. I just don't know if I want to call it a beginner's, but it will take you from like step 0. I've never even heard of the word numerology to I'm doing charts for my friends and family, and myself. So, but I had no idea it was available. And then a few days later, we discovered it was available online already. And then my friend was like, did you know it's #1? And then I was like, what the hell? So it's already #1 Amazon bestseller. Yeah. And then I was like, doubted. This is the doubt of 10 and all my 10s. I was like, oh, I'm probably literally the only book in that category that's like a new release. And I go on there, they're like, here's the top 40 in this section. And I was like, wait, so there's already a top 40. I didn't even know it was like a category because it's very niche genre. And then I'm still #1. So I'm saying that to just say, hell yeah, and it should be. And then it's worldwide release. And hopefully they're actually talking of translating. The Asian markets are very interested. So I'm hoping, I would love to see it in Korean. Yeah. Partly because I love Korean, like the glyphs. I don't, what do you call it? But I love the alphabet. I love they're like hieroglyphs to me. I love the Korean font, which I see a lot in LA because we have a very large Koreatown, but they're talking about translations there. I just think that would be really cool to see it in different languages that use different alphabets. Would be really amazing. So, it's a worldwide release. It'll be on bookshelves. It's not just like an Amazon book,
I'm so excited to read your book. I have a huge interest in numerology, as you know. That's super exciting. Congratulations.
Well, thank you very much. It's definitely a project that I really think it just needed to get out to the world. And, I'm literally just teaching the reader. I'm sharing how I do a numerology chart. This is what I do. And I do thousands of charts and readings, and it's literally my job. And I just am sharing my process. And I hope that like people read it, they they could easily become much better numerologists than I am.
That's your 10 coming out.
Yeah. No, I just want, like, it's, you know, Laura, if you do your own numbers and look at it, you're going to come up with things I wouldn't think of. So we're all just as right as I am. I just have a lot of experience and a reference point that's a little bigger. That's all.
Yeah.
You know, and an intuitive sense with it. But it's like a fun book. I'm really grateful. My designers are really cool. They love things like tarot and mysticism, and it's, you know, it's a hardcover. It's a very beautiful book. This publisher, their whole thing is very nice design aesthetic. It's Hardy Grant and then Chronicle Books in America.
Wow, so excited for it. Well, is there anything I didn't ask you that you wanted to share with our community?
No, I think we covered, right, the advent of a new consciousness for humanity, getting your shit together, the 5-year prophecies for a new age in a new way, how to like look at making good financial opportunities. I think that's it. Let's just do what we do, and let's all help everyone have way more prosperous, fulfilling, soul awesome, kick-ass, fuck yeah lives. That's what it's about. That's spirituality.
Yes, I love that. Well, I will link all of Remington's information in the show notes. Thank you so much, Remington. Thank you for
Laura, thank you. It's an honor. I'm so glad I got to do a reading for you a year ago, and it's just like the greatest gift I can hear is like people moving into that. So I adore you, and I really support the work that you're doing here, and you rock because you're a rock star.
Thank you.